Did you know with the Sam's Club app, you're technically in the club no matter where you are? Like, this is a club. This is also a club. And this is a club. My bad. Come join us. Sam's Club.
Hi, I'm Gayle Troberman.
Hi, I'm Daryl Lee.
And this is GLAAD, because all marketing
is definitely not created equal. So, Gayle, as we start our next episode, I have a number for you. $1.4 trillion.
Trillion.
$1.4 trillion. What does that number represent?
1.4 trillion is a whole lot of brand opportunity that the gays represent. That is
it's
not
the gay dollar.
Yeah, it is the gay dollar. $1.4 trillion. And I believe that's even a dated number. I'm sure it's bigger than that because no one's done research, I'm told, in a couple of years on how big the gay influence, audience, and spending power and potential is.
When we talk about all these tech companies and their trillion-dollar valuations, but hey, there's this community that has just as big a valuation. And to your point, probably more, right? Because that's 4 years ago. I mean, that's the question, right? The community's growing, not just in influence, but in spending power. But doesn't feel like brands are recognizing that. Or do you think that's a unfair statement?
Yeah, I think we spend so much time slicing and dicing audiences and cohorts and trying to find the epicenter of the bullseye. And here's a massive, growing, influential, affluent audience that I'm not seeing a lot of briefs cross my desk and people asking to specifically target the LGBTQ plus consumer. So I think it's a massive opportunity, and let's help brands figure out how to tap into this audience to grow.
And brands that do participate in communities, particularly the LGBTQ community, get credit, right? We know this from all consumers, but if we have to talk about dicing, the generational dice probably is the right one, which is Gen Z, which is the one that everyone's chasing, react more to brands that give a shit about communities, to be blunt, than ones who don't.
True. It's not just immediate sales, right? It's long-term loyalty. It's sustainable growth.
Right. It's brand love. It's true love. It's not like a one-night stand. It's love.
This isn't a brand hookup. This is real love.
This is
real
marriage.
Yeah,
marriage or a long-term partnership. We don't judge.
Yeah.
Either
we don't
way,
need to
just
define
commitment.
it, but commerce is commerce.
No. Commerce is commerce. Who are we going to talk to about this?
Well, we've got the incredible Sarah Kate Ellis, president and CEO of GLAAD. And GLAAD's a phenomenal organization that's just been at the forefront of recognizing the potential for brands and media to have an authentic and powerful voice and representation of our audience in true ways that are meaningful. We've also got Brent Miller from P&G. Brent's been at the forefront with Procter & Gamble in really, I think, paving the way for how brands can connect with and be part of the LGBTQ plus consumers' life and lifestyle, and live up to P&G's motto of good for growth and growth for good. And I think Brent Miller and the team at P&G have really just done incredible work with things like the Elton John Impact Awards that they launched recently. So he's going to share a lot of advice on how you can grow and, like you said, develop sustainable growth platforms with the LGBTQ plus consumer.
I know you've worked with him and you've worked with P&G so much in your career, Gayle. So I know this is going to be powerful. Frankly, it's powerful to me because P&G is a heartland company based in the heartland of America with the biggest mass brands in the country, if not the world. So if P&G can do it well, and they're not in a cool, fun, hip, sexy category, they're in the basic household categories of marketing.
Yep.
So can you.
Exactly. P&G can do
There's
this.
No excuse.
Every brand can do this well. So listen up. GLAAD's going to tell us about the size of the prize with the LGBTQ plus audience, and P&G is going to show us how to go after that prize.
All right, let's go get that prize. Let's get into it.
Thank you, Brent Miller from P&G. Sarah Kate, thank you so much for joining us here at GAI. Why don't we get started? The gay dollar. Oh, right. Brands, if you think about the LGBTQ plus community. We were just talking about this, right? There's an outsized sort of sense of influence a lot of people in the community have on trying new things, buying things first, setting trends, and travel and beauty and fashion, and being ahead of the curve in media and entertainment and music and culture all up. When you think about the gay consumer, how big a pie is that? How big an opportunity is that for brands?
Gayle and I have talked about this for a long time. I think we are at that moment where we have that equal seat at the table, where people are looking at the LGBT community as a consumer segment, not as a niche, not as something you do once a year when the pride floats go down the street and you decide you're going to put a rainbow on the storefront window and say, hey, we like you too, right? It's actually something that's a lot more serious because frankly, there's an opportunity there and you can't take it for granted.
71% of Americans are in favor of the LGBTQ plus community. We need to say that again out loud.
Again.
I mean, that is an incredible
surprised it's
stat.
that big, right, Gayle? I'm surprised.
Okay.
It's actually over 90% of Americans who believe that we should have equal rights. It's 71% of Americans agree that brands and companies should be able to show their support for LGBTQ people during the month of Pride.
The vast majority want brands to be authentically committed to the LGBT community if they are, and to speak about it.
That's exactly right. And it has such brand glow for them because they feel if you support communities, especially marginalized communities, Americans, consumers think you must take really good care of your employees. You really care about your consumers. So it has this additive multiplier effect to it.
That's amazing.
So this is a 4-year-old number. Nobody's tracked it in the past 4 years, which is an enormous opportunity for any company, financial institution, research company, or any consumer-based company. The LGBTQ spending power in the United States alone is $1.4 trillion. Globally, it's closer to $5 trillion. And that's 4 years ago. Imagine the growth that we've seen because we've seen a growth in our community where we're 9% of U.S. adults. And when you look at Gen Z, it's about 23% of Gen Z are LGBTQ. Those numbers annually are ticking up, up, up. So it's not a declining market, it's a growing market, and it has tremendous amounts of disposable spending power.
It's true, and yet, and this is a perception that Gayle and I have, that brands have pulled back, that there has been a pullback, that there has been, whether it's conscious or unconscious, a sense of it's too dangerous. But that's the perception. We want to, as you said, we want to be driven by truth. In fact, do you think that as well? Have you seen in your work brands pulling back, whether consciously or unconsciously?
I've seen probably 3 categories of things. I've seen corporations who have gone quiet with the backlash on DEI. And I don't think that's a growth strategy. It's not proving to be one. 2 is I've seen companies who don't want to get caught in the crossfire. So they've been really silently or quietly still supporting the LGBTQ community because they know it's their employees and their consumers. And then I've seen the 3rd category, which we've seen actual real growth in, is those that have doubled down in this space. Because when you think about our community and our allied community, it's over half the population of the United States. And so I know my mother, I'm a gay woman, my mom is straight. My mother won't buy products from companies that don't support me. Our allies are diehard. So it's not just affecting the LGBTQ community, it's also our allies who are putting their dollars with the companies who support the community. And I think what we've seen, though, is that the companies who understand growth and who understand marketing are the ones who are leaning into the community because we are extra loyal. I mean, the numbers year over year just show our loyalty to brands who support us, our ability to share that with other people and influence other people about them is tremendous as well.
How do you think about it, Brent?
So I have this incredible video that was done in 2000, right? And it was from our very first trainings that ever happened at P&G about the LGBTQ audience. And the very first line that the guy says in the training, he said, we have been selling our products to LGBTQ people since 1837. We just haven't talked about it until now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so the fact of the matter is people have been buying our products. LGBTQ people have always been part of the equation.
Of course.
Right? And now as we look at that, I mean, there is no greater acknowledgement or relationship with people when you actually sit down and you say, you know what? I am going to invest in you as a consumer segment because I need to earn your trust. And that's what we do as marketers and brand builders, right? And the way we lose trust almost immediately if we aren't representative of the community inside with our policies, inside with our people, if we are just saying we are going to build market share off the backs of you, then you have a problem with credibility.
We're just going to target and capture, right? No, we want to communicate and we want to win, right? We want to win. We want to deserve your money and your dollars because...
Yeah, and when someone says, I trust you enough to give my dollar or whatever it might be to you for your product, they are saying, I believe not only in the benefit that you are giving me, right? But you're also saying, I trust you that you have earned this from me, right?
Yeah.
And so every time that we engage in a relationship with someone, no matter what consumer segment it is, it's about earning their trust. And what we've come to understand, and I think in a much deeper way with the LGBT community, is that because there have been so many people that have not supported them, or there have been so many people that have not engaged in the conversation, there is a higher bar that you must reach about legitimate community support and legitimate connection, which ends up being part of the value equation that an LGBTQ consumer is looking at, right?
Yeah.
So they're looking at, does your product work? Does your product provide a benefit that I'm looking for? But on top of that, they're looking at, are you on my side? And on my side can mean a lot of different things. And I think it's changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Say you're a consumer, an LGBT consumer, kind of looking at the wall of products, right? And you're looking at that wall, and there's almost like this unspoken rule that's occurred in the community. And it's like, you know which one to buy, and you know which one's on your side. You know which one not to buy. And therefore, the way we talk, the way that we go and have that conversation needs to reflect an understanding of who they are and why we are in that conversation. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that has occurred within marketing when we think about the LGBT community is people that have just showed up and said, hey, I'm here for you.
If you want to grow with younger audiences, right?
Yeah.
I think for so much of our lifetime, it's been the 10% ceiling. It's like, well, 10%, between 5 to 10, between 5 to 10. If people don't like it, it's 5. If people like it, it's 10. People identify as LGBTQ. But actually, younger generations, because the queer is a much more inclusive term in that world, it's looking like 25% of people identify with the LGBTQ. So it's still a minority, it is that matters, but a sizable buying group.
I think we're actually in a turning moment in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And what we would say is if you look at the continuum
Yes.
of the brand conversations, right? I think we're moving away from what we would call a period of time called spotlight on the struggle.
Mm.
And we're moving into an era of what I would call assumed acceptance. As we go to an age of assumed acceptance, what the LGBT community is saying is like, you don't have to show me in a performative way anymore. You don't have to, it's not about this disruptive depiction of who I am. I want to be welcome. And I want to know that I want to see myself as a whole human in how you're communicating with me. And so like what I've learned as a 49-year-old guy, right? Like a white cisgender gay man is my sexual orientation, because of probably the era that I grew up in, is a much larger part of my identity than it is for somebody that's younger.
Oh, true. Yeah. Super interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So me being gay is a lot more forward in my mind than Gen Z, right? About 25% of Gen Z identifies in some way, shape, or form as being LGBTQ. But what they don't identify with is you throwing it in my face all the time. They're like, why are you so focused on that? Because I'm not focused on that. So why are you?
Yeah, we say 23. However, those are very conservative numbers.
Oh,
We know those are very conservative. Even the 9% of all US American adults, we can tell just from various different studies that we've seen as high as like 13 or 15%. But we always go with the most conservative number just to be truthful and safe. And it's only growing.
Hmm.
I mean, there are numbers out there about voting population that I think by the year 2030, it's estimated that 1 out of every 4 voters is going to be LGBTQ.
Oh, wow.
So it's
right.
growing.
And that means one of every 4 consumers.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think a lot of brands look at this opportunity, and I think one, they're not framing it through the lens of growth.
Right.
And in an economy that's challenging, in a world where a lot of, social and digital metrics aren't performing as well as they had, a lot of consumers are tightening their belts. I mean, looking for new growth audiences, I imagine, is job one for most marketers. And yet I get a lot of briefs from a lot of clients, big, medium, and small, and I don't see briefs coming to me going, "You're at iHeart, you reach 9 out of 10 Americans, on broadcast radio alone. How can you help us find the LGBTQ consumer? Because we want to grow with them."
Our communities are out there and they're easy to reach. And we want to be reached. We want to be spoken to.
Right.
Especially right now, as the media landscape has been polarized and the politics against our community have really amped up, which is why I think you're not seeing a lot of RFPs or requests come in specifically for our community. There is such a huge opportunity for those who want to take it right now. You could talk about the Bud Lights and the Targets till the cows come home, but what about the Costcos and what they did? When you see a brand stand up to a bully, it excites people because nobody in America likes bullies.
Right.
We just don't like them.
Right.
And we don't think that they're fair or equitable. And we're about fairness and justice. And so when you see that, I think people get really excited, and you saw the growth at Costco. So I think that there's an enormous untapped opportunity. Now, there was a time in 2021, 22, 23 where you all probably too did get a lot of requests to target the LGBTQ community.
Yes.
And it's not hard. It's not hard to get to the community. It's not hard to become a favorite. And you say what you do and you do what you say. And we'll stick with you through the tough times as well.
When you're advising clients, Sarah Kate, on brand safety, and they're like, "Well, can't go there, there's risk." What do you tell them? What's your advice for brands?
So first and foremost, we work with a ton of brands, and our job is to make sure that they eliminate all risk as much as possible. I mean, everything has risk to it, right? But I think it's really important to understand that if something goes wrong for them, it goes wrong for our community, right? So it's not just them on the line. It's us on the line, our community on the line.
Interesting.
And so there are very easy ways to insulate your brand from the risk that's out there. And I do think the risk is overblown, quite frankly, in the media. It's a very small percentage of the population, 14% of the American adult population is against LGBTQ inclusion. So starting there, you're talking about a much wider swath of people who are for it. And I think that there are certain ways to position your brand. There are certain things that you need to do. You get out there and the LGBTQ community sees you as pinkwashing, which means that you're just trying to get our money. You don't really care about us. And when you're speaking to a marginalized community, you do need to show that you really care and that you've done your homework. So that's easy risk to mitigate. It just is a little bit of work, but it's not a lot. And then on the other side of it is that you want to make sure that you're putting your brand out there in the right way and have the right voices to support it right out of the gate, to build the positivity around the campaign that you're running, to drown out any of the negative forces that might come. And so we help build that before it goes out so that you build a moat around it out of the gate. And then if you do hit trouble, this world is just full of trouble. we're all sick of cancel culture.
Yes.
I like accountability culture.
Yes.
And I think that's important in this moment in time when truth is not necessarily grounded in truth anymore. So accountability is important. But if you are clear and concise about why you're doing what you're doing, people fall right in line with it. It's when you don't know why you're doing it, or you're just trying to make a quick buck. And that people see through. And then it ends up like Bud Light.
Daryl, we are so excited, aren't we, to welcome our new partners at e.l.f., who, very much like us at Bubbler, really believe in zero distance with our community. They believe in relationships built on real connection. You know, the ones where you show up for the wins, the setbacks, and you have those hard, honest conversations in between. One of our favorite must-listen podcasts is Uncensored Renegades, and it's hosted by e.l.f. Brand's president, Corey Marchesotto, and John Evans, founder of the Uncensored podcast properties. It's a weekly human-to-human conversation. It will inspire you, it will teach you, and it will definitely make you laugh. Listen it.
What's your advice to brands about working with gay creators, and how do they do it well? And are there any lessons and watch outs?
First of all, I can't emphasize this one enough, right? The respect that you show to a community by investing in getting to know them is absolutely critical, right? Because yes, we are building brands. We are building, that is our job as marketers. That's our job as brand builders. That's our job as companies, like in serving and growing brands and ultimately in service of our shareholders, right? But you get there by making investments in getting to know who people are. And then you bring them a product or service or whatever that meets that need, right? And that's a contract that you have. And there's no higher form of respect that when you show somebody, when you say, I'm going to get to know you in the fullness of who you are. And some of the most incredible insights that I've seen on some of the brands is when we've gotten down to that level of really listening and go, oh my God, I never thought about it that way. And Pantene's one of those. We found out that for 60% of LGBTQ people, one of the very first things they do when they come out of the closet is change their hairstyle.
Amazing. Makes total sense. Yep. New identity.
It is
new expression. Yeah.
one of the most visible ways that you project your identity to the world. But what's really fascinating is that as we got deeper into that understanding, it wasn't just about LGBTQ people. It's everyone at a major life stage.
Yep.
If you're a new mom, if you've gone through a breakup, if you've gone through these
First
moments.
jobs, graduation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what we actually got to was this insight about your relationship with your hair and what your hair actually means and how you present yourself to the world, right? And so if you're trusting us in that moment, one of the biggest moments of your life, then my gosh, what an incredible gift that you're. So what I have to do back is make sure that I'm honoring that and communicating that with respect.
I love that. Yeah.
And that is what separates performative marketing from outstanding brand building. And frankly, when you understand the audience, is actually how you also avoid issue.
Yeah.
Right? Because it becomes less performative.
Yes.
And I think if you look at what I would call the biggest mistakes in LGBTQ brand building, it is when somebody tries too hard.
Yeah.
It's really easy if you're thinking about your consumer and you see a misstep to go out there and say, hey, we did this the wrong way and we missed this and it's on me. That is one of the most valuable currencies in our country today is authenticity and transparency because there's so little of it.
I will tell you that there's another problem on the other side. And I know this because we have not a lot, but we have more than we ever have in our lives in the industry, in the creative business, have out LGBT creatives.
Totally.
And people, but clients struggle with some really basic things about how do you cast, how do you represent. And it's hard to have the honest conversation, which is, are you just trying to ask the question, what makes someone look gay? Is that it? Can we just get over that? The thing that is interesting, and I think really, MasterCard is a client and I do love them, but things like the True Name card, product innovations. There are product innovations for the community.
Brilliant.
Which you couldn't have your name as a trans person on your credit card. You had to have your old name and your new name, your real name. And that innovation then gave MasterCard a conversation with the LGBT community. So that to me is also let's get out of whether it's, if we build it, people will come, but are we building products? Are we building financial services products? Are we building healthcare products? Every category can look at the influencers that are gay and go, are we helping them create something new in the world?
Well, I love that.
I have a great example of that. It's slightly political, but in Kansas, overnight, there was a policy that moved through, legislation that moved through literally overnight that took every trans person in Kansas's driver's license away. So at 5 o'clock, it was like that. There was no 7 days, 12 days, whatever to go get a new driver's license.
Unbelievable.
The community there completely organized to make sure that every trans person got what they needed. If it was a ride to work, if it was food brought to them, and Lyft offered free rides.
Lyft.
Go Lyft.
Shout out to Lyft.
Yes.
Offered free rides to trans people so that they could get where they needed to go safely.
Wow.
I'm going to use Lyft from now onwards.
Yeah.
I pledge.
There you go.
On this
right?
podcast.
I understand the need for, all targeting, right? There's always the debate about privacy and respecting personal information. And yet, like I said, I can buy, a millennial mom who likes chocolate with 2.5 children and works out 3 times a week and et cetera. And we have all these elaborate and very expensive ways of mashing data and clean rooms to find all these very micro niche target audiences for brands. And yet LGBTQ, we've said, we can't target them as easily because of privacy concerns. And I think part of it is brands haven't been asking for it.
No.
When brands step up and go, we want to reach this audience, we will figure out the way, the tools and the systems will figure out the ways to do that safely and legally and appropriately. But I don't think the demand has been there, which is a big part of this episode of Gay Eye about the gay dollar, is to address that question.
I think you're exactly right. The demand hasn't been there. And I think part of the reason the demand hasn't been there is because I think sometimes the people feel that the task is overwhelming. Right? If we look at where growth is going to come from, it is fully in the multicultural segment, whether it be ethnic multicultural, whether it be LGBTQ, wherever it might be.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. And so I think as everyone's looking at, oh my gosh, I need to rethink or sharpen the way that I'm creating relationships with our consumer base, it can seem overwhelming. And because there's a lack of data on LGBTQ, I think people have always said, oh my gosh, I have so many jobs to be done, so many mouths to feed. I can't even take this on. And I think what's interesting is we found through our research that basically our general market communication are fully reaching the LGBT community because they're a reflection, as we talked about.
Yeah, they're a big, percent of the population, and you're doing, mass reach media and, targeting whatever it is, men, women, different geographies, et cetera. I'm sure you're reaching, a good swath of the audience with the budgets you have in the CPG world. Yes.
1,000%. And what I think we've been maybe waking up to a little bit more is to make sure that general market media message is and it sounds so obvious when you say it, but you have to make sure that is as welcoming to as many consumer segments as possible. I need to be able to see myself. And when you think about it that way, the responsibility or the opportunity to reach an LGBTQ audience actually becomes a lot less daunting. No, I don't need to create an entire different system to connect.
Yeah. And I don't need to have if we're making X pieces of creative, there's the gay one, right?
There's the gay one.
What you're saying is we sit at all the tables everyone sits at. We're not just a gay table. So you can reflect us in those ways. So simple and yet not necessarily well understood.
No, and that is, to me, has been actually the biggest like eureka moment, right? Is the simplicity of it.
Right? Yeah.
Because when you actually talk about LGBTQ marketing, you're actually talking about the base fundamentals of good brand building.
I think you're right. People see it as, oh my God, it's another thing on my already crowded to-do list, or it's going to be expensive and different. And I think what you've found through the work and the research you've been doing is it's really not. It's the same production.
Oh,
It's having those insights, right? It's doing your homework ahead of time. I want to make sure we have some time to talk about showing up authentically,
yeah.
understanding an audience, and building a long-term relationship.
Well, the Elton John Impact Awards is really a celebration of the people that are part of and around the LGBT community that have had a substantial impact in helping to lift us up through a lens of art and culture. And so we celebrate their contributions and the positive impact that they've made in the world.
Talk to me a little bit about how that came to be. It's such a big and exciting program, and I'd love to hear kind of how a company like Procter and Gamble ends up in a partnership with Elton John that results in starting a conversation about equality at a massive scale.
When COVID-19 happened, we were sitting there, where I think everybody was sitting there at that world in that moment going, my gosh, what do we do? What do we do with this? Because it was one of those great moments of equality, actually, because everybody was affected, right? But what we also recognize that some communities were impacted more deeply than others. And as we were looking as a company across the board, it's like, we serve all consumer segments. So what are we doing? How can we help with the voice that we have? And we looked at the LGBT community and thought, my gosh, there's really nothing happening. Take that with a grain of salt. There was a lot happening, but there was nothing large because the community is so diverse. And we were like, how do we show up? And we were like, oh my gosh, we actually need to create it. We need to create a way for us to enter into conversation. And so we actually created Can't Cancel Pride during COVID, as basically every pride in the world was canceled, right? And so it was a response to that, to give the community visibility and to help raise funds for community organizations that were decimated during COVID.
I know they do all their fundraising in real life, and a lot of it in June with galas and events and festivals. And all of a sudden, all that sponsorship money, all those donations, all those events that people bought tickets to, that entire revenue stream for these critically important organizations doing the hard work on the ground for the gay community, all of them were just, you're right, they were facing a really tough challenge. And P&G, to your credit, I mean, really stepped up there.
Yeah, there was never a question of if we were going to do something. It was more about what are we going to do? And the Can't Cancel Pride came about also because there were so many young people that were at home in unaffirming homes that were missing their connection to community, right? That didn't have an outlet. And so when we created that together with iHeart, we were providing funds and helping to raise funds, but we were also using the voice of advertisers and companies and business to do what we do best, which is reach people.
Exactly.
And in the third year of that, we were having a conversation, like, as we're getting further away from COVID and as the world's opening back up, it was important that we were thinking about legacy and how do we continue to tell these stories? How do we continue to create community? And in that third year, we created the Elton John Impact Award, and Elton was the first recipient of the award named in his honor. And, and to be clear, this isn't something that Elton created in his own name, right?
That's
it was
true.
created to honor his legacy and what he has done and provided. And so that was part of Can't Cancel Pride. And in year one, it was Elton. Year two, it was Brandy Carlisle. Year three was Billy Porter. All these juggernauts in their respective fields. And, the further that we got away from COVID, the more we recognized that Can't Cancel Pride had its moment in time, and it was time to move on.
Incredible fundraiser, though. How much money did you raise with Can't Cancel Pride through the years?
About $18 million.
Unbelievable, right? And all that money is going to some incredible organizations like our friends at GLAAD and Trevor Project and Sage and, folks doing really important work in the communities.
Yeah. And I think what it helped us understand also is how do we find our own voice? And that's ultimately what this has become. And so the Elton John Impact Awards now is a standalone event institution. We're building it to that from Can't Cancel Pride. But as you listen to the stories of Laverne Cox and Orville Peck and, all the range of these generational nominees or honorees, you recognize that they're stories of human lessons that we learn. Like when Laverne's talking about Orange is the New Black was the last audition she was going to do because she was going to throw in the towel at 40 when she turned 40. And she talks about learning your craft, right? And Orville talks about the importance of finding community when you're young, right? And Chappell talks about the importance of recognizing the people that have helped pave a path so that she can be who she is. These are just amazing stories.
It's so true.
I think together, that's where you want to be as content creators and companies and all these places. And as we have made that investment, I think that's where we've probably had the biggest moments of clarity and insight. And those moments of clarity and insight have then just not been about an LGBTQ insight. They have actually helped us understand broader insight, like the Pantene example that I talked about, right? It's like, oh my gosh, when we think about the LGBT community or other like diverse segments, we call like what's true for them and truer, right? Because
true and truer, I love that.
But what I think about is an investment in getting to know who you're reaching, why you're reaching them, and what's important to them.
Yeah, because it's a two-way relationship, right? Which is, I think, what you've proven. I think we say the words a lot, brand relationship, brand loyalty, but we, as marketers, we're not always showing up in that relationship and thinking about that segment or audience we're having a relationship with, and what is our role and our value and our contribution to that audience.
In these years where it's been the over-politicization of the LGBTQ community and corporates have pulled back financially with the LGBTQ organizations, it's hurting a lot of our organizations, especially our smaller organizations. We've seen a decline in giving across the board in the movement. We've seen a corporate decline in giving. And I think for us, there's the real part of it and how it affects our P&L. And then there's the betrayal part of it. Like you were with us when it was good and you were riding that wave, but now it's not so great. Now you know what it feels like to be LGBTQ in America and be targeted and be nervous and be scared to walk down the street, and you've walked away. And so I think that's going to be a reckoning. There will be a reckoning around that when we come out of this, because we will come out of this. I have no doubt in my mind we'll come out of this.
More importantly for marketers, the economic reckoning is already happening. So the thing that, people are forgetting in this over-politicized moment is the fragility of the economy. That's why we're so like, oh my God, you're talking about growth? Hallelujah.
Right.
That's the only role of marketing. There's nothing else that marketing does except grow a business. Nothing. Nothing else. So if you're not growing, you're not doing your job as a CMO, you should be out. And a lot of companies aren't growing because they've been focusing on pleasing political fads. And look at the Costco Target thing. Like, it's not a game. Target's in trouble. So I think that's the thing that we have not done. In the culture zone, I'm confident there will be a reckoning. But hey, you may not be around as a brand anymore to fight your case in that cultural zone, because in the economic zone, you'll be out. There's like a winner and loser competitive economy. We all are sort of pretending that it's not the case, but it is. It's brutal out there. I say this to all my clients. It's brutal. And why would you not go for growth? I don't understand. We need to make sure it's a commercial thing though, right?
Yeah.
So the thing, having been in media planning my whole life as well, is like, it can't be community planning as part of your foundation.
Exactly.
Can't be community planning as part of your nonprofit or your, the thing that you do as public relations. It has to be intrinsic.
Exactly.
It's the communities in your brand,
It's part of the business. It's the growth plan.
Right.
It's not the thing over in the comms where we do a little edge marketing for, our corporate positioning. It's got to be core part of how you find growth. And I love putting a challenge out there. And it sounds like GLAAD is the place to start. If you want to figure out how to do this effectively, how to do this safely, and how to go find this growth. There's partners here who know how to do it, who can come help too. You don't have to guess.
New tagline, grow with GLAAD. You're welcome.
You should be in the
I
creative
would have had to
business.
spend so much money on that, and all I had to do was come on your podcast. Thank you.
I suppose what you're saying, which is like, just open up, invite us in. We're ready to help. We're ready to grow. We want to build brands. We love brands. Like, it's a community that loves brands, that actually has to brand themselves a lot to sort of create financial independence and be separate from your family and make a life for yourself in whatever small or big way. So it's an opportunity. We just need to all help each other.
The gay dollar.
The gay dollar.
It's real.
We used to call it the pink dollar.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
Maybe it's the rainbow dollar now, but
the rainbow
currency.
The rainbow currency.
Yeah.
Rainbow currency. So, Gayle, it feels like it's time to do some gay spying.
It is time for I Spy.
With my gay eye.
Always with a gay eye. It's always better to spy with a gay eye. And today we have the incredible Pat O'Keefe, one of our favorite clients, one of our favorite Bubbler media co-collaborators and partners from ELF. I Spy with my gay eye brings you Pat O'Keefe from ELF.
Hi, my name is Patrick O'Keefe. I am the Chief Integrated Marketing Officer at ELF Beauty.
Great.
I spy with my gay eye the power of women in sports. We are proud partners of the NWSL. We are so excited because we love what they stand for. They're a very inclusive culture and community, and very supportive of the LGBTQ plus community. As the official sponsor of the NWSL, the National Women's Soccer League, we're just really excited to be part of building another sport community and being part of a community that is celebrating not only, the sport, but also celebrating women who play in sports. Because we know that 65% of women are soccer fans. So that is really, really important.
Love it.
We're part of the conversations. Then nearly 2/3, 63% of the U.S. soccer fans watch women's soccer. And right now I know we're focused on the men, but in a year, it's going to be the Women's World Cup. So we're really excited to see that come to life. And then 78% of women's soccer fans trust women athletes. So we want to be a part of those conversations. So as we look to a community of people that probably are underserved, I would say there are a lot of women are underserved, and specifically in the gay community. So, and we know that there's a lot of spirited, fun moments that we can celebrate, specifically, the lesbian community within the sport. So I'm excited that ELF is a part of that. And as you may or may not know, but one of our big partners, obviously, is Catherine Legg, who just finished the double for Indy and for NASCAR, and Billie Jean King and what she's doing around the Billie Jean King Cup. And also her and her wife did the unlock for the PWHL, the Women's Hockey League, which ELF is one of the founding partners of. We also support, women's wrestling, which is another area, again, leaning into a space and place where the underserved or need to be served, and we're finding our way in. We just did a series, one of our IPs, which is Show Yourself, and we did it with Floje, who is a massive, massive talent, not only in the world of basketball, but also she's a talented musician. She's a badass, and we are so lucky to have her in the family. Again, it's about the underserved community and celebrating every eye, lip, and face.
Okay. So, Daryl, what's the takeaway here?
Gayle, we've covered so much, but I think the truth is talking to the gay community is not a charity act. It's not part of your corporate responsibility, and it's not a risk. It's not something you need to alert your PR agency about immediately. It's a growth strategy. Without the gays, there is no growth. And also, it's a future-proofing strategy, right? It's not just the current value of the gay community. It's stuff that's coming. The younger generations are watching the brands that are showing up and the brands who are backing down. And they will remember, and we see this across brands, across institutions, across politics, they will remember and they will vote, this time with their wallets, and reward the brands that commit.
I couldn't agree more. Targeting the LGBTQ plus audience, it's a growth strategy. It's not DEI, it's ROI.
Oh, that's a good one. Gayle, you just slipped that in.
Any excuse
Oh,
any
my
excuse
God.
for an acronym. Yeah.
That's a good one. Well, but I think we should make a T-shirt. You know,
We should.
It's not about DE&I. Everything to do with DE&I is not about DE&I. It's about building a high-performance culture and a high-performance team so that you are a high-performance brand and a high-performance company.
Exactly.
We're going to have to keep teaching this lesson, I think, because people get confused about charity acts and wanting to be with the cool kids. And this is a brutal, basic business decision.
It is.
Show up for the people who will reward you in culture and reward you in business. And we will remember, and we will return the favor.
100%. Let's go get the gay dollar.
Let's go get it.
Yes.
Trillions, people. Trillions.
With a T. So that's why we're here at GAI, to help you go after those trillions of dollars.
Did we say trillions enough? No. Trillions.
I think we said trillions. Yeah. Yep. We'll be back shortly with a new episode and more GAI topics to help you
Gay up.
something. Help you gay it up.
We'll be back.
We'll be back shortly with another episode, but in the meantime, I hope you'll start planning to go after that gay dollar.
Thanks for listening to GAI. Follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. Share this episode with a marketer, founder, creative director, or just a group chat that needs a little more GAI.
And we want to hear what you spy with your GAI. So send us your thoughts. Let's keep the conversation going. You can follow us, Bubbler Media, on LinkedIn, iHeartMedia, YouTube, or wherever you socialize.
GAI is a Bubbler Media iHeart podcast production. If you're not in the conversation, you're not in the game.
Got a Sam's Cafe pizza order up.
You know the best part about this spicy Italian sausage? I voted for this topping. Yeah, just another perk of being a member. Come join us. Sam's Club.